The night before my son's wedding, he stood in my kitchen and said something that broke my heart. "Mom, don't come tomorrow. Amber thinks you'll embarrass us." So I stayed home alone in the house I'd worked 3 jobs to keep. Then, an hour before the ceremony, my phone rang. It was Amber, the bride, and she was crying so hard I could barely understand her. When I finally pieced together what she was saying, I realized my son had made a huge mistake. Hey there, friends. I'm Diane Foster, and I've got a story to share that I never thought I'd need to tell. It's about betrayal, heartbreak, and how the truth can come out in the most unexpected ways. Before I dive in, I'd love to know where you're watching from. Are you in a small town like mine or a bustling city? Drop a comment below. It's comforting to know I'm not alone, that there are kind souls out there who understand what it's like to give everything for your kids only to have it thrown back in your face. So let me tell you how I ended up sitting alone in my living room on what should have been one of the happiest days of my life. I raised my son Jason as a single mom after his dad walked out when Jason was just 3. We were left with a ton of debt and a mortgage I could barely handle. At 26, I had a little boy asking when his dad would come home, and I had to figure out how to keep our lives from falling apart. Those early years were tough. I worked as a waitress at a diner during the day, cleaned offices at night, and took in ironing on weekends. I wore the same 3 outfits for 2 years, and my hands were always rough and red from the cleaning chemicals. I cut my own hair in the bathroom mirror and bought shoes from thrift stores, only to resell them when they wore out. I was exhausted, sleeping only 4 or 5 hours a night, working double shifts, giving Jason the bigger portions at dinner, and eating whatever was left. My body ached, my feet were blistered, but I kept going because Jason was my world. But Jason never went without. He had new shoes every school year, the calculator he needed for math, the right uniform for Little League, and all the art supplies for his projects. When he wanted to join the debate team and needed money for travel, I picked up extra shifts. When he dreamed of going to college, I worked overtime for 3 years to help him avoid crippling student loans. I was so proud of him, my beautiful boy who graduated with honors, landed a good job at a marketing firm, and seemed to have escaped the poverty that had defined my life. He moved into a nice apartment, wore tailored suits, and drove a reliable car. I had given him that chance. Then, 2 years ago, he met Amber Westfield. I'll never forget the first time he brought her home. I cleaned the house for 3 days, even though it was already clean. I made a roast with all the trimmings, set the table with the good china my mother had passed down, and put fresh flowers in a vase. I wanted everything to be perfect. I wanted this girl who'd captured my son's heart to see that we might not have money, but we had love, dignity, and grace. Amber walked in wearing a white cashmere sweater that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage. Her nails were perfect, and her blonde hair was styled in that effortless way that actually needs a salon visit and $200. She looked around my living room with its worn furniture and outdated wallpaper, and I saw something cold flicker in her eyes. She was polite during dinner and said the roast was lovely, but I noticed she barely touched it. She asked about my work, and when I mentioned I'd just retired from my job at the dry cleaners, I caught a glance at Jason. It was quick, but it said, "You didn't tell me your mom worked at a dry cleaners." After that first visit, things changed. Jason's calls became less frequent, and when he did call, he seemed rushed and distracted. He stopped coming by for Sunday dinners, our tradition since he was a little boy. He said he was busy with work, Amber's family events, and wedding planning. Yes, wedding planning. After just 8 months of dating, Jason proposed to Amber, and she said yes. I was thrilled and cried happy tears because my boy was going to be a husband to start a family of his own. I asked when I could help with the wedding planning and offered to contribute what I could. I had saved up a bit, not a lot, but enough to maybe cover the flowers or help with catering. Jason got quiet on the phone and said, "Mom, Amber's parents are handling everything. You don't need to worry about any of it." The way he said it made my stomach hurt, like I was a burden, not the mother of the groom who should be involved in her only child's wedding. Over the next few months, I was kept at arm's length from all the planning. I wasn't invited to look at venues or go dress shopping. When I called to ask about colors for what to wear, Jason said Amber would get back to me on that. She never did. I met Amber's parents only once at an engagement party I almost wasn't invited to. Jason called 2 days before and said, "Oh, Mom, I forgot to mention there's an engagement party on Saturday. You should come." Like it was an afterthought, like I hadn't given birth to him or raised him or sacrificed everything for him. The party was at the Westfield Mansion, which doesn't even begin to describe it. It had columns and a chandelier that probably cost more than I'd earned in a decade. There were caterers in crisp uniforms, champagne, caviar on toast points. I wore my best dress, the navy blue one I bought for my mom's funeral 5 years ago, thinking I looked nice. But when I walked in and saw everyone else in designer clothes and expensive jewelry, I felt like a sparrow among peacocks. Amber's mom greeted me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, you must be Jason's mother. How nice to finally meet you. Jason has told us so much about you." The way she said it made me feel like whatever Jason had told them wasn't good. I tried to make conversation, but I felt invisible. The dinner went on, filled with speeches from Amber's family about how perfect Jason and Amber were together, and nobody mentioned me at all. I sat there for 3 hours, feeling like I didn't exist. After dinner, Jason came over, looking a little tipsy. "You doing okay, Mom?" he asked, but it didn't seem like he really cared. "Can we talk outside for a minute?" I asked. He glanced back at Amber, who was laughing with her bridesmaids, then nodded. We stepped out onto a balcony overlooking the golf course. "I feel like you're pulling away from me," I said. "I feel like I've done something wrong, and I don't know what it is. I should be part of this. I should feel included." He didn't look at me, just stared at the lawn. "Mom, it's just that Amber's family is different from what we're used to. They have expectations. There are certain ways things are done. Is that what you're telling me?" I asked. And when he finally turned to look at me, I saw something I'd never seen before: shame. Amber doesn't really understand where I came from. She doesn't know about the diner or the 3 jobs or the roach-infested apartment from when I was in elementary school. I've been trying to fit into her world, and having you here makes it harder. The words hung in the air like poison. "Different," I repeated. "I am different. I worked myself to the bone to give you a better life. I sacrificed everything so you could have opportunities I never had. And now you're ashamed of that? You're ashamed of me?" "I'm not ashamed, Mom. I'm just trying to build a new life here. Can't you understand that?" Tears burned behind my eyes, but I held them back. "I understand you've forgotten where you came from. You're choosing people who judge you by your bank account over the person who loved you when you had nothing." "That's not fair," he said. "Fair? You want to talk about fair? I gave you everything, Jason. Everything I had, everything I was, I poured into you, and now you can't even look at me without wishing I was someone else." "Please don't make this dramatic. It's just one day, one wedding. Can you just try to understand my position here?" I took a deep breath. "I do understand. I understand perfectly." I turned to walk away and then stopped. "I love you, Jason. I always will. But I hope someday you realize what you're giving up to impress people who will never accept you anyway." I left the rehearsal dinner early, drove home through tears, and sat in my dark living room, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. The next evening, Jason showed up at my door at 9. He didn't call first, just appeared looking uncomfortable. "Can I come in?" he asked. I stepped aside and let him in. He paced around my living room, not sitting down, not looking at me. "Mom, I need to talk to you about tomorrow." My heart started pounding. I knew something was coming. Amber and I talked, and with everything being so perfect and planned, we think it might be better if you didn't come to the wedding. I had to sit down because the room spun. "What?" I whispered. "It's not that we don't want you there, Mom. It's just that Amber thinks you might embarrass us. You'd be uncomfortable with all those people in that fancy setting. We're just trying to save you from feeling out of place." "Embarrassing?" I repeated, my voice hollow. "Your mother would be embarrassing at your wedding?" "Mom, please don't make this harder than it already is. This is Amber's day. She's been planning this forever. Her parents have spent a fortune, Everything has to be perfect, and you just don't fit the aesthetic they're going for. I looked at my son, the man I'd raised, and barely recognized him. Get out, I said quietly. Mom, get out of my house, Jason. Right now. You're being unreasonable. I'm trying to explain. You just uninvited me to your wedding because I'm not fancy enough for your new family. You told me I would embarrass you. Your mother, who gave up everything for you, would embarrass you. There's nothing left to explain. Get out. He stood there for a moment, and I thought maybe he'd realize what he'd done, apologize, take it back. Instead, he said, Fine, if that's how you want to be about it, I'll call you after the honeymoon. Then he left. He actually left. I didn't cry that night. I was beyond tears. I sat in my living room in the dark, staring at the photos on the wall. Jason as a baby, on his first day of school, at his high school graduation. My whole life had been about Jason, and now he didn't want me at his wedding. The next day, I woke up at dawn. I hadn't really slept, just laid in bed replaying Jason's words over and over. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table, listening to the clock tick. The wedding was at 3. I imagined the venue being set up, Amber in her dressing room, Jason putting on his tuxedo. I imagined the empty space where I should have been. At noon, I drove to the park where I used to take Jason when he was little. I sat on a bench under the old oak tree where we had picnics. I watched families playing, mothers pushing strollers, a little boy running to his mother after scraping his knee. I remembered doing that for Jason 1,000 times, kissing scraped knees, wiping away tears, promising everything would be okay. When had I stopped being the person he ran to? When had I become someone he ran from? My phone rang at 2:15. I saw Amber's name and considered not answering. What could she possibly want? But curiosity got the better of me. Hello? The sound on the other end was barely human, sobbing, gasping, the sound of someone falling apart. Diane. Amber's voice was choked and desperate. Please, I need you. I need you to tell me the truth. I stood up, heart racing. Amber, what's wrong? What happened? Is it true? She sobbed. Is everything he told me about you a lie? My mind raced. What did he tell you? He said you were negligent, that you were an alcoholic who could barely take care of him. He said you brought different men home all the time, that you were more interested in your own life than being a mother. He said you embarrassed him his whole childhood, that you showed up drunk to his high school graduation, that you stole money from him to pay for your drinking. He said you were toxic and unstable, and that's why he had to cut you off. I couldn't breathe. My son had told these horrible, vicious lies. Amber, I said, my voice shaking, none of that is true. Not one word. I know, she said, crying harder. I know because Jason's college roommate is here. Daniel Martinez. He's Jason's groomsman, and he just told me everything. He told me the truth about you. Daniel, I remembered him. He'd come home with Jason for Thanksgiving one year when he couldn't afford to fly back to Texas. I treated him like another son. What did Daniel tell you? I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. He told me you raised Jason alone. You worked 3 jobs to support him. You went without, so Jason could have everything he needed. He told me how you'd send care packages to the dorm, how you'd call just to check on him, how you paid for his textbooks even when it meant you couldn't fix your broken-down car. He said Jason used to brag about you, that you were the strongest person he knew. She was crying so hard she could barely speak. And then Daniel said everything changed when Jason met me. He said Jason started lying about where he came from because he was ashamed of you. And I believed him. Amber continued. Daniel told me Jason took out a loan in your name 2 years ago. A big loan. He said Jason forged your signature because he needed money to keep up appearances when he started dating me. He said you didn't even know about it, that Jason had been hiding it from you. My blood ran cold. A loan in my name. Forged signature. Daniel has proof, Amber said. He said he helped Jason with some paperwork one night when Jason was drunk, and Jason bragged about how easy it was to forge your signature. Daniel kept copies because he was worried about you. He liked you and thought what Jason was doing was wrong. He started asking questions when he saw you weren't at the rehearsal dinner, and Jason told him you weren't coming to the wedding because you were an embarrassment. Amber took a shuddering breath. That's when Daniel told me everything right here in the bridal suite, 30 minutes before I'm supposed to walk down the aisle. He said he couldn't watch me marry someone without knowing the truth about who Jason really is. And now I see it, Diane. I see exactly who I was about to marry. I sat back down on the bench, my legs shaking. Amber, I don't know what to say. I'm calling off the wedding, she said firmly, her voice suddenly clear despite the tears. I can't marry him. I can't marry someone who would treat his own mother this way, who would lie to me about something so fundamental. If he could lie about you, what else has he lied about? What else will he lie about? Amber, are you sure? Your family, all those people, the money spent. I don't care, she said. None of that matters. What matters is that I almost married a man who's capable of this kind of cruelty. A man who would disown his own mother to impress people. What kind of husband would he be? What kind of father? I heard commotion in the background, voices, someone knocking on a door. I have to go, Amber said. I have to tell him it's over. But Diane, I need you to know that I'm sorry. I'm so, so sorry for believing his lies, for treating you badly, for being part of this. You deserved so much better. You deserve a son who's proud of you, who honors you, and I'm going to make sure everyone knows the truth about what happened here today. She hung up. I sat on that bench in shock for what felt like hours, but was probably only minutes. Then my phone rang again. This time it was Jason. Mom, he said, panic in his voice. Nothing like the cold dismissal from the night before. Mom, you have to help me. Amber called off the wedding. She's telling everyone I'm a liar, that I treated you badly. Her father is threatening to sue me for fraud. Daniel showed her some paperwork. I don't even remember. Mom, please, you have to come down here and tell them it's all a misunderstanding. Tell them we had a disagreement, but everything's fine. Please, Mom, please. I took a deep breath. No. What? No, Jason. I will not lie for you. I will not clean up this mess. Mom, please. My career is over if this gets out. Amber's father has connections. He could ruin me. I could lose my job. I need you, please. You told that girl I was an alcoholic. You told her I neglected you. You told her I stole from you. You took out a loan in my name, Jason. You committed fraud using my identity. And you didn't want me at your wedding because I would embarrass you. I didn't mean any of it. I was just trying to fit in with your family. I was stupid. Okay? I made a mistake. But you're my mother. You have to forgive me. That's what mothers do. Something inside me hardened. Mothers also protect themselves, Jason. Mothers also have dignity. Mothers also deserve to be treated with respect, and this mother is done letting you use her. Fine, he spat, showing his true colors. Fine, you want to abandon me on what could be the best day of my life? Go ahead, see if I ever speak to you again. Jason, I said calmly, you abandoned me first last night when you told me not to come to your wedding. You made your choice. Now live with it. I hung up. The next few days were a blur. Daniel called and explained everything in detail. The loan Jason took out in my name was for $50,000. He'd used it to buy an expensive engagement ring, fund lavish dates with Amber, and lease a nicer car. He'd been making the payments from his own account, which was probably why I hadn't noticed. But legally, I was responsible for the debt. Daniel had copies of everything. Documents Jason had left lying around, emails he'd written when he was drunk. Enough evidence to prove fraud. I met with a lawyer, a good one, recommended by Daniel's dad, who was an attorney in Texas. The lawyer reviewed everything and said I had a solid case. We could get the loan discharged and maybe even get Jason charged with fraud if I wanted to pursue it criminally. I didn't want to send my son to jail despite everything. I just wanted the debt cleared and for him to face consequences. We settled it quietly. Jason had to pay back every penny of the loan himself. His name was flagged on my credit report, ensuring he could never use my identity again. And I made him sign a document acknowledging what he'd done, witnessed, and notarized, as insurance against him ever trying to spin the story differently. Amber reached out to me a week after the canceled wedding. She wanted to apologize in person. We met at a coffee shop, and she looked different, humbler, more real. I've been thinking a lot about what happened, she said, about the kind of person I was, the kind of values I had. My parents raised me to care about money and status, and I never questioned it. I never thought about what really mattered. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. Jason and I were perfect for each other, but not in a good way. We were both shallow, more concerned with looking successful than being good people. What he did to you opened my eyes to who I was becoming. What will you do now? I asked. I'm moving out of my parents' house. I'm going back to school to finish my degree. I'm going to figure out who I am when I'm not trying to impress everyone around me. She smiled, a real smile this time. And I'm going to make sure that when I do find someone to share my life with, it's someone who treats their mother the way you deserve to be treated. We talked for 2 hours that day. By the end, I realized that maybe the canceled wedding had saved two people, not just one. As for Jason, I haven't spoken to him since that phone call on his wedding day. He's tried to reach out a few times with texts that start with, "I'm sorry," but quickly turn into excuses and justifications. I don't respond. Maybe someday he'll understand what he lost. Maybe he'll genuinely change. But I'm not holding my breath, and I'm not waiting around to find out. I thought being uninvited to my son's wedding was the worst thing that could happen to me. But I was wrong. The worst thing would have been watching him marry someone while continuing to believe his lies about me. The wedding being called off was the best thing that could have happened. The truth came out. I got justice, and I got my dignity back. That's all I needed. Please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. With love and respect.